After Evans Jr. joined the company, he gave her the full-time role that should have been mine. Anna, she needs this more than you do. I had been grinding myself down to keep up with project deadlines, working until days and nights blurred together. My health, my sleep, my effort. None of it seemed to matter to him. When I got home, I packed up his things. Leave. I'm exhausted. I don't want to fight. Evan froze. His eyes reddened in an instant. How can you just give up on me? Over something this small? Chapter 1. The moment he said that, I completely lost it. Small? Don't you dare call it small. I grabbed the tissue box beside me and threw it at him. He hadn't expected me to lash out. He stood there, staring at me in disbelief. The box hit his forehead. He sucked in a sharp breath. Anna, it's just a full-time offer. It's not like you're never getting one, he said, forcing himself to stay calm. I'm just extending your probationary period. I already told you, you'll get it. You don't urgently need the money. Whether you go full-time now or later doesn't really affect you. And you still have me. No one's going to bully you. Chloe is different. If she doesn't get this job, she'll have to go back home. Her family is already pushing her toward marriage. I can't just watch her get trapped like that. He didn't understand. I looked at the man I'd loved for 4 years and felt an ache rise in my chest. Evan, at my last internship, my mentor told me there was a role for me. Then, right before the decision, they said the position had been opened externally, and they'd found someone else. Do you remember? I was sitting right here, crying. I wasn't angry just because I didn't get the offer. I was hurt because I'd been misled. As if all my sincerity, persistence, and hard work were worth nothing. I was stupid enough to tell my mentor that I wanted to work with her forever. She really was kind. She looked at me for a long time, then smiled and said, out of all our interns, you're the one I believe in most. I like you too. So when I learned the truth, it hurt even more. Those words had only been meant to keep me working. To keep me going like an workhorse, head down, day after day. That was when Evan told me his company had an opening suitable for new graduates. With your ability, you'll be fine. I believe in you. He crouched beside me and wiped my tears. It's okay, he said. Try again. Chapter 2. Fortunately, my luck wasn't terrible. While preparing for my thesis defense, I updated my resume and sent out applications. After 4 rounds of interviews, I received an offer. Evan's company paid well, and the competition was brutal. So brutal that if you fell behind the team's pace, even interns would come over and ask whether you needed help, ready to take over part of your workload. It was even more intense than when I'd been an intern myself. I didn't dare slack off for a second. To avoid delaying the project, working late into the night became routine. I was so busy I could barely think straight, staying up until the sky grew light again. When I got home, all I wanted was to collapse into bed. I spoke less and less to Evan. But I'm stubborn by nature. Once I decide something is worth doing, I see it through. And I was the only new hire in my department. By convention, that usually meant a smooth transition to full-time. I worked with everything I had. As expected, once my trial period ended, the company announced the full-time decision. But they didn't announce it to me. They announced it to her, Chloe. She hadn't even shown up for work a single day. Chapter 3. Anna, we're only extending your trial period, he said. But this decision could change everything for her. You've always been kind. Why are you so angry this time? At most, it's 2 more months. Then you'll convert smoothly. When I didn't say anything, Evan continued. I know this is piling on top of what happened at your last internship, and that makes it feel worse. But this time is really different. Your job is still your job. Nothing is going to change. The day I sat here crying, he probably thought all it took was a few tissues to wipe it away. So now, he was tossing aside my effort and my expectations the same way he tossed me that tissue box. Evan truly didn't understand. And I didn't understand either, whether the person I loved had ever really loved me. Whether he had ever cared for me the way I cared for him. I let out a self-mocking laugh. Evan, I said flatly, if one of my junior colleagues told me his life depended on getting a job, I still wouldn't hand him someone else's offer. Why should I sacrifice my future to rescue one junior employee? Is he truly out of options? Am I the only person in the world who can help him? Evan frowned, as if weighing my words. After a moment's hesitation, he said, "That's different. She's a girl, and she just graduated. She doesn't have any real-world experience. And she's facing a very real hardship." So my hardship wasn't real? Because I felt sorry for how hard Evan worked, no matter how difficult things were, I never complained to him, not even once. And because I wanted to prove I was worthy of standing beside him, I never backed down from a challenge. Of course he wouldn't know that for this job, I volunteered for overtime only to have colleagues dump their responsibilities on me. That day, I told him not to wait for me after work. I walked home from the office, walked for a very long time. Hidden by the night, I cried the whole way. But when I got home, he had cooked for me, prepared the fruit I liked, adjusted the water temperature just right. And I thought maybe I could keep going. Sometimes life felt unbearably hard, and I felt so tired, but then Evan would hold my hand and take a walk with me. And I'd feel better again. I asked for so little. And yet he wouldn't even give me that. I asked him. Then what does all my effort count for? Evan rubbed his temples, his face etched with exhaustion. Anna, why don't you understand? Your effort hasn't been denied. You're just seeing the results a little later. Can you stop fixating on this already? Chloe is a good girl. She'll be grateful to you. I looked straight at him. No. Kindness without principles isn't kindness, it's weakness. Do you hear me? Weakness. Why do you get to hurt me like this? Do I deserve it? I rarely cursed. But right then, I felt like if I didn't, I'd make myself sick. It took him several seconds to even react. Anna, are you crazy? I remember back in college, if you saw elderly people collecting recyclables, you'd run over to buy them food, then come back feeling upset for hours. You bought food for the stray cats on campus and paid to have them spayed and neutered. You even donated your scholarship money to student aid foundations. I just don't get it. You feel sorry for the elderly, for children, for animals, but why can't you tolerate Chloe? He grabbed his phone and slammed it onto the table. It hit the surface with a sharp, violent sound. Do you think there's something going on between me and her? My phone's right here. Go ahead and check it. If there were anything between us, I might as well just die, okay? He was furious, like he was angry that I didn't trust him. Suddenly, I felt drained. No matter what I said, Evan didn't understand. He never stood in my shoes, never cared for me the way I cared for him. I closed my eyes, exhausted. We're not walking the same path anymore. Leave. Evan let out a long breath. Anna, I'll give you some time. Think it over. Think about whether what you said today, and what you did, was really right. Chapter 4. I watched his retreating back and suddenly thought of something. No. Don't think. I forced every memory of Evan down, hard. If you can pick something up, you should be able to put it down. Anyone who hurt me, I didn't want anymore. To keep my emotions from spiraling out of control, I cleaned the apartment through the night and submitted my resignation at the same time. I just wanted to finish the handover as quickly as possible. The next day, I saw Chloe at the office. She was very thin, wearing a white dress, looking like a gust of wind could blow her away. When I walked in, she was bent over asking a coworker a question. Coworker A said loudly on purpose. You don't even know how to do this? You can ask my interns, they'd be more than happy to help you. Oh right, we also have someone in our group who hasn't converted yet. She's really good at this. You can ask her more. She stressed the words, hasn't converted. Chloe's expression turned awkward. Hearing footsteps, she turned around. Anna, hi. Evan talks about you a lot. I scoffed. A lot? Because Evan told me he's not that familiar with you. Maybe she hadn't expected me to be that blunt. Chloe's face went even paler. She stammered for a while. I didn't wait for an explanation and said directly. All right, let's not waste time. Let's go over the handover. Coworker B suddenly looked up. You're resigning. In an instant, everyone looked at me. I smiled at her. Yeah. There was a hint of bitterness in that smile. She saw it and immediately said. It'll get better. After that, she turned toward Chloe, glanced up at the ceiling. And rolled her eyes. Two coworkers who dumped their work on me before said gleefully. Looks like some people are just annoying. Even their own boyfriend won't take their side. Anna, don't get me wrong, I'm talking about my friend.
Yeah.
Your friend's really pitiful. But pitiful people always have something hateful about them.
Ha!
After everyone chimed in, the office quieted down again. Heads lowered. Work resumed. Chloe clenched her fists. I glanced at her once, then looked away. Let me walk you through the parts I'm mainly responsible for right now, and the projects I'm currently involved in. I noticed Chloe was clearly zoning out. I sighed inwardly. Pathetic. Most of the team knew at least part of the truth and weren't eager to deal with Chloe. More importantly, compared to Chloe, I was more capable and worked better with them. If I left and she replaced me, project progress would slow down, and their bonuses would be affected. Of course they weren't happy. After Chloe walked away, a coworker leaned over and asked me quietly. So you're really giving her the full-time role that should have been mine? I looked into it, she's barely qualified. In other words, Evan had pushed her in. Stepping right over me. Her eyes were full of confusion. Honestly, I didn't understand either. We'd been in love, hadn't we? All I wanted was my own career, and to be in a good relationship. Maybe I was too greedy. So I ended up with neither. She lowered her voice even more. Did your boyfriend talk to you about it first? I gave a bitter smile and shook my head. No. And just to correct that, it's my ex-boyfriend. Anna, don't you think you're being ridiculous? A familiar voice sounded behind me. Evan's face was dark with anger. This is the office. Keep personal matters out of it. And also, being upset is one thing, but can you at least act normal? That was blunt. So I didn't hold back either. Normal? Don't normal me. Not now. Not after this. Chloe appeared out of nowhere. Evan, Anna, it's all my fault. Please don't fight because of me. She sounded timid, like a little white flower trembling in the wind. I know Anna doesn't like me, so that's why everyone's being so hostile. Anna, there's nothing between Evan and me. Please don't fight because of me. It's fine if I'm the one who gets hurt. I never meant to hurt anyone, I just wanted to work properly. Even if I'm misunderstood, that's okay. Evan said coldly. Apologize to her. My chest tightened, like a stone was stuck there, aching. Chloe lifted her head slightly and glanced at me before quickly saying. No, it's fine. Anna just loves you too much. I know she didn't mean to hurt me. Even though I was hurt, I won't take it to heart. Evan turned to her, displeased. I'm talking to you, Chloe. Apologize to Anna. Chloe bit her lip. Tears welled up, nearly spilling over. Evan looked at her and hesitated. Forget it. Get back to work. Don't overthink it. Then, like he was patiently lecturing an innocent younger sister, he added. Chloe, people have to take responsibility for what they say. This is the workplace, not school. Bringing personal matters into it doesn't help you at all. People will just think you're irrational and unreliable. Do you understand? Chloe lifted her head slightly. Her lashes were wet with tears, her expression fragile and pitiful. She sobbed softly and said to me. Anna, I'm sorry. But I could see it clearly. There wasn't a trace of remorse on her face. The provocation in her eyes was unmistakable. I understood it perfectly. What Evan said to me was, this is the office. Keep personal matters out of it. But to her, he explained patiently, analyzed carefully, taught gently. A wave of frustration I'd never felt before crashed over me. No matter how hard I tried to suppress the emotions surging inside, Evan still affected me. And I realized that I could no longer understand him, just as he could never understand me. Yet for 4 years, I had loved him sincerely, and I had felt his love too. In a lifetime, how many 4-year stretches of mutual devotion do you really get? Tears nearly fell. Chapter 5. I blinked hard, forcing the tears back. I took a deep breath. I didn't want to have anything more to do with either of them. Chloe, you don't need to see me as a competitor. If this is about work, I've already submitted my resignation. And if it's about Evan. I glanced at Evan's retreating back, paused, then continued. I've already broken up with him. I didn't know whether she believed it. Most likely, she didn't. Because she quickly forced a smile and said to me. Anna, I'm not though. You're being too sensitive. Overthinking things. And just to say, Evan is a really good person. You shouldn't keep saying you've broken up. It hurts people's feelings. Saying it once or twice might work, but say it too often and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. There was no trace left of the pitiful look she'd had earlier. The more she spoke, the more smug she became. Fine, Anna. If I ever get back together with Evan, I swear, may I drop dead. Happy now? For a brief moment, Chloe's face went blank. If you were competing with me over work, I might actually respect you. But over a man? I really don't get it. Why are you so desperate to take something I've already used? If you want him, take him. He's yours. I patted her on the shoulder. Work hard. I hope you really manage to stay. After all, I'd put a lot of effort into this job. Once, I'd really wanted to stay. Chloe wiped her shoulder hard, like she wanted to erase my touch. Who needs your fake kindness? If you're so capable, why couldn't you get Evan to stand on your side and speak up for you? And you, don't lecture me. You were Evan's junior once too. Now that I'm here, are you feeling threatened? Evan was 2 years ahead of me. Originally, there was no overlap between us at all. But fate has a way of being absurdly coincidental. Whenever I forgot my umbrella, I'd duck under a random classmate's umbrella and ask them to walk me part of the way. Everyone was kind. No one ever refused. Some classmates even went out of their way to escort me. So I'd do the same, offering my umbrella to classmates caught in the rain. That day, it was pouring. I ran up to the person in front of me and held my umbrella over him. I was wearing flimsy slippers. My foot slipped, and I practically slid forward, the umbrella smacking into the back of his head. Momentum carried me forward. I almost went down with the umbrella. Luckily, he instinctively grabbed me. I panicked and apologized over and over. Evan was soaked through. He spoke. The rain was too loud. I couldn't hear him clearly. He raised his voice and said, "Hey, can you move your umbrella? All the water from it is dripping straight down my clothes. It's freezing." I froze. His white t-shirt was plastered to his body, the outline of his abs clearly visible. Higher up, water dripped from the edge of the umbrella onto his collarbone and slid down. Evan didn't look pleased. But good-looking people still look good, even when they're cold and annoyed. "I'm sorry. I'll transfer you some money for medical expenses. I'll treat you to a meal. What do you want to eat, classmate?" Evan looked at me for a moment, then said, "Move the umbrella." He was still standing there. Without thinking, I said, "Then maybe you could move a little?" Evan froze. Then, as if something occurred to him, he turned and ran. I hurried after him. "You really won't add me? There's a deal right now, add me and I'll cover the dry cleaning. I'm serious. Add me now and dinner's on me. Hey, don't run. How about coffee?" He ran. I chased. The distance between us kept growing. I ran with my head down until, suddenly, a hand appeared in front of me. A phone was held out, the contact screen already open. Evan's face was still expressionless, his voice just as cold. "Add me," he said. "I'll take care of it. Contact and compensation, deal." Later, Evan told me that when he first saw me that day, his heart started pounding. He thought it was love at first sight. Thinking back on it later, he realized it was probably his heart hurting from sheer anger. It was pouring rain. I'd hit him with an umbrella, nearly knocked him over, then after he pulled me up, I'd pressed the umbrella down so all the water ran straight onto him. He couldn't believe he'd fallen at first sight for someone who treated him so terribly. Once it hit him, he turned and ran. Thinking about it now, I couldn't help but smile. It felt like I could see my youth rushing past me. Aside from my friends, Evan had heard more of my girlish secrets than anyone else. He gave me endless support and help, the courage and strength to believe. And back then, I'd imagined our future together countless times. In those fantasies, 18-year-old me walked with him toward endless happy endings. But 18-year-old Anna, did you know? You and him had no future. Maybe if you took one step back, you could have kept loving him. But I wouldn't allow myself to do that. He saw my pain, and thought nothing of it. Chapter 6. A coworker suddenly slammed a hand on the desk. "We're at work. If you can do the job, do it. If you can't, step aside." Chloe choked back a response and shot me a glare. Fine. Saved me the trouble of handing things over to her. I got some peace and quiet. I didn't stay late to work overtime like I usually did. When it was time, I left. This time, no one said anything. As I walked out, Chloe was still being reprimanded by the others. I saw her scribbling the words, "drop dead" over and over on a piece of paper. If she couldn't handle this, then the meetings ahead would really finish her off. Everyone dumped work on everyone else, handed out empty promises, assigned tasks like bait, masters of subtle sabotage, overt and covert. Yeah, I wasn't exactly a good person either. I grabbed my bag and left, pushing it all out of my mind. Scenes of my time with Evan flashed through my head. On the day of my interview, I'd walked through the lobby, watching the elevator numbers climb, thinking how nice it would be if I stayed here, how I'd get to see Evan often. I never imagined that I'd be the one to leave, of my own accord. The July evening breeze was cool. And yet, I felt cold. As if the torrential rain from when I was 18 had finally finished falling today. My phone suddenly lit up. A message from Evan. Anna, Evan is with me right now. The message disappeared a second later, retracted. I stared at the screen and suddenly burst into tears. I always felt like I was supposed to be happy. How had things ended up like this? Was it because I was too stubborn? Or because I didn't understand him enough? Was Chloe to blame for being bad? Or Evan for never quite getting it? I didn't know. No matter how I thought about it, the only person I could blame was myself for being too fragile. If I were stronger, maybe I wouldn't cry. Anna. A hesitant voice sounded. I wiped my tears in a panic. A tissue was held out in front of me. I took it and looked up. Ryan, Evan's friend. He'd never really liked me. Every time he saw me, his face would fall. He always dragged Evan away. Seeing my tear-streaked face, he deliberately looked away. In a flat voice, he asked. What's wrong? I broke up with Evan. Really? That's great. Huh? I thought I'd misheard him. Ryan hurriedly corrected himself. I mean, that's terrible. Such a shame. Really unfortunate. He tried hard to look sympathetic, but his acting was terrible. I took a deep breath. Yes. We broke up. One piece of good news and one piece of bad news. Which do you want to hear? Ryan clearly hadn't expected that question. He froze for a couple of seconds. Then his eyes lit up. What's the good news? The good news is that Evan and I are completely, totally done. Ryan nodded vigorously, looking delighted. The bad news is that Evan is probably straight. Not gay. So you're out of luck. Ryan's face visibly darkened. Afraid he'd start yelling at me, I turned and ran without looking back. I knew it. Every time he saw me with Evan, he'd rush over and drag Evan away. And the moment he heard we'd broken up, he couldn't hide his joy. He was definitely in love with Evan. That interruption dried my tears. I opened my phone and, mimicking the tone of that message, replied to Evan. Evan, Ryan is with me right now. I didn't retract it. Chapter 7. When I got home, I started making lists, packing up a little each day to make sure that once I officially left my job, I could walk away immediately without leaving anything behind. When I reached the 7th item on the list, I stared at it for a long time. Many of the gifts in that category were things Evan had given me. I would keep a few items with sentimental value, carrying the love of my family and friends with me as I moved forward. Evan had given me many unforgettable memories. On my 20th birthday, he was away on a business trip. I told him again and again not to come, that work was more important. He didn't come, but he had a piece of jewelry custom made for me. And asked me to pick it up in person. It wasn't until I got there that I realized Evan had also arranged for me to meet and talk with a leading figure in the industry. Even now, I can't quite describe how I felt at the time. I couldn't tell whether I was more touched, more heartbroken, or more stunned. I knew it must have taken him a great deal of effort to secure such a rare opportunity for me. He even thought ahead, knowing I might need time to prepare, and told me about it 2 hours in advance. After the meeting, the bracelet, used as an excuse, was delivered to me as well. I wasn't used to wearing jewelry, so I carefully kept it stored away. It was much later that I learned he had actually rushed back to campus that day. But it was too late. He only came to see me briefly, then left in a hurry. I discovered this only after finding photos on his phone and asking him why. He answered lightly. I wanted to see you. I didn't understand. Then why didn't you come see me, if you were already here? Evan looked at me and smiled. Because I saw you bouncing back happily. You looked so cheerful. The truth was, I wanted to see him. And he was afraid that if I didn't get to see him, I'd be disappointed. Every gift carried the sincerity he'd had at the time, shining clearly. Chapter 8. My mind was a mess. I wanted to escape for a moment. But I still forced myself to sort through my belongings and list them on a resale site. Only after everything was done did I finally look at the long string of missed calls on my phone. At that exact moment, the phone rang again. I answered. The voice coming from the phone overlapped with the sound outside my door. Anna, open the door. He was standing there, wearing a slightly helpless smile. You really won't let me come home? In his eyes, it was as if I were only briefly upset, like I'd calm down soon enough. Evan, we broke up. You know me. I've never joked about something like this, and I've never used breaking up as a threat to force a promise out of you. If I say it, it means I've already made up my mind. I do act impulsively at times. But when it comes to things I truly want to do right, I always think 10 steps ahead before taking one. Especially when it involves someone I was almost going to spend my life with. Evan looked at me for a long time. When he realized I wasn't joking, panic flickered across his face. Don't do this. His voice dropped, carrying a trace of pleading. There's nothing between Chloe and me. I just couldn't stand by and watch her become a sacrifice to marriage. That doesn't mean I don't love you. I know. Every word he had prepared was forced back down. His eyes were full of confusion, as if asking why. I'm not your teacher. I don't owe you an explanation. Let's not waste each other's time anymore. If we're separating, then let's be clean about it. Dragging this out is pointless. I couldn't allow myself any room to waver, so I chose to be cruel. Evan stared at me intently. He turned his face slightly, his jaw clenched tight, holding back tears. We had met young, each other's first love. We both believed the person in front of us was the one we'd spend our lives with. After a long while, he turned back to me. He held it in again and again, but his voice still trembled. I'm sorry. I won't interfere in other people's affairs anymore. I know you're angry. You used Ryan on purpose to make me jealous. You hate Ryan, I won't associate with him anymore either. I cut him off. Why would I hate him? I could understand why Ryan didn't like me, but he'd never hurt me. I had no reason to hate him. Hatred is a very intense emotion. It takes a lot of energy. No one is worth that. Who you choose to associate with has nothing to do with me. Evan, I don't need you to change yourself for me. That would only burden me. I understand where you're coming from, but you can't dismiss the harm you caused me just because you were kind and she had her hardships. It doesn't work that way. Isn't love supposed to put each other first? If I wanted to be more malicious, I could think that after I entered the workforce, I became more independent and more focused on myself. Evan's weight in my life diminished, and Chloe's appearance filled that gap. She was young, pretty, and her admiration and dependence satisfied his emotional needs. I could think that way. I could attack him. I could blame Chloe. But I didn't want the ending to be that ugly. He fell silent. I could tell he still wanted to try to salvage things. After the silence, Evan asked me. I can put everything back the way it was. Why does it have to come to this? I took a step back and asked him. Do you know that Chloe used your phone to send me a message? Evan's face drained of color. He wasn't stupid. On the contrary, Evan was smart. Instinctively, he knew it couldn't have been anything good. He explained weakly. She said her phone was dead and she needed to let a friend know she was safe. I didn't know she would message you. I'll check the security cameras and call the police. I closed the door and told him. I copied her. I sent you that message. Chapter 9. The next day, when I went to the office, I caught a bit of gossip. After checking the security footage, Evan had actually called the police and gone to the station with Chloe to mediate. A coworker asked me curiously, Anna, do you know what happened? I've never seen him that angry before. He used to smile even when he was furious, then quietly make people resign. Her gaze flicked over my face. I just got here. If you don't know, how would I? I said. Seeing that, she didn't ask any more questions. For several days after that, I didn't see either of them. Until one day, I found Chloe squatting outside my apartment door. She rushed over and grabbed my hand, bursting into tears before she could even speak. Anna, I'm sorry. I just lost my head for a moment. Please forgive me, okay? Before I could respond, Evan suddenly ran over. He had clearly heard everything. Furious, he yanked her away from me. Shut up. You lost your head enough to use my phone to provoke Anna? Didn't you say you didn't want to be misunderstood? Then what exactly were you doing? Chloe clutched my hand and refused to let go. I pulled my hand free. My forgiveness means nothing to you. Her tears only flowed harder. I just wanted to try. You're not me. You don't know how hard my life is. I had no other choice. I took a pack of tissues out of my bag and tossed it to her. You weren't trying. You were gambling. Gambling that I'd swallow the loss in silence. Gambling that Evan would waver. Relying on others is worse than relying on yourself. And try not to wallow in self-pity. Once people start pitying themselves, they stay stuck in the role of the victim. It's easy to fall into an emotional spiral. The more you pity yourself, the more helpless you feel. The more helpless you feel, the more you pity yourself. Chloe reacted as if someone had stepped on her tail. She flung the tissues hard onto the ground. All you ever do is say things from your high horse. You never consider other people's circumstances. Not everyone has the advantages you do. People like me, are we supposed to just die? Watching me beg you, does that make you feel proud? Evan picked up the tissues, his chest heaving as he struggled to contain his anger. Chloe, do you want to go to the police station again? Whatever is between you and me, why are you dragging Anna into it? I really regret listening to your nonsense and helping you. Chloe froze. Her swollen, tear-filled eyes lifted to Evan. I like you. Evan's face darkened instantly. He turned to me and explained. If I'd known she felt that way, I would never have had any contact with her. I repeated myself again. We broke up. You don't need to explain anything to me. Evan's fingers curled slightly. His voice dimmed. I know. But I don't want you to misunderstand. I didn't say anything. The ignored Chloe glared at me. Feeling the intensity of her stare, I looked at her. I didn't like Chloe. The only reason I'd spoken to her at all was because she hadn't bothered me at work, and because, emotionally, she had helped separate me from someone who wasn't right for me. Aren't you leaving? Chloe left in tears. She was wearing high heels and couldn't quite keep her balance, swaying as she walked away. Evan watched her with a cold expression. I couldn't help but mock him. What? You don't think she needs help anymore? Evan looked at me, a sheen of tears in his eyes. I'm sorry. If I ever need help in the future, could I come to you first? He didn't say anything else about getting back together. He loved me, and he understood me. Unless I had made up my mind, I would never choose to break up. I couldn't bring myself to say, with grace and calm, that it was fine. I wasn't that magnanimous. It felt like something was lodged in my throat, leaving me unable to speak. My eyes stung. I quickly opened the door and said to him, "No. Goodbye." My voice was trembling, anyone could hear it. I closed the door and covered my mouth, crying. Evan. We will never see each other again. Chapter 10. After finishing the resignation process, I sublet the apartment. I didn't want to stay here anymore. I was afraid that in future interviews, the department head might be someone I'd worked with. Or worse, Evan. When I was younger, I dreamed of traveling far and wide. In the end, I only ever made it as far as a few towns down south. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. Some had notes from Ryan. Others asked where I was now. I ignored them. I wasn't oblivious. I could guess the reasons well enough. I just wasn't interested in their stories. In August, the city got hit with relentless storms. I was sitting by the window, listening to rain pound against the glass, when my phone rang. The caller ID said, Evan. The first time, I didn't answer. He called again. I don't know if it was because the rain was too loud, but on impulse, I picked up. The voice on the other end wasn't Evan's. It was a sweet, childish voice. Anna, when are you coming to play with me? Anna, I miss you. My brother is the worst. He won't let me call you. I found your number all by myself, wasn't that smart? It was Evan's younger sister. The little girl who liked to cling to me, who liked climbing onto my lap. She said I was the only one willing to help her dress up her dolls, the only one who would sit with her and do sticker books. Whenever she wanted praise, she'd copy what she'd heard other kids say and wait for approval. I froze. Not hearing my voice, she kept saying, hello? Hello, into the phone. I came back to myself. Outside, the rain only grew louder. I hear you. I'm here. Wow, Anna. Her excitement was so vivid I could feel it through the screen. Anna, I miss you so much. You said when I was on summer break, I'd get to see you. I've been on break for so long already. But my brother won't let me look for you. Mom says you're a grown-up. Grown-ups have to work and make money, and they're always busy and tired. So I waited patiently for so many days. But you still didn't come. Her voice fell, then quickly lifted again. I have money. I didn't buy any snacks. I saved it all so you could come play with me. She chirped like a little sparrow, calling over and over, Anna, Anna. I thought maybe Evan and his mother believed that if they distracted her for long enough, she'd forget. They didn't expect that even after all this time, she still remembered. I couldn't bear to give her hope only to disappoint her again. I'd grown up too. I knew that when adults casually make promises, children remember them for real. I watched raindrops slam into the glass, blooming into flowers. I broke up with your brother. I'm sorry. I can't come play with you anymore. The line went suddenly silent. In her innocent confusion, she asked, Anna, what does a breakup mean? I thought for a moment, then said, it means we won't see each other anymore. Her crying came instantly. Through sobs, she asked. If you break up with my brother, does that mean you can't play with me either? Yes, I said. Those are the rules adults have. Don't cry, okay? Someday, someone else will come play with you. She cried even harder. All grown-ups are bad. My brother is the worst. Then she added softly. But Anna isn't bad. I like Anna. I don't want anyone else. I want you, Anna. She called out to me, crying softly. I tried my best to comfort her. You're a sweet, lovely little girl. In the future, many people will like you, and there will be people who want to play with you. The rain never stopped. It soaked everything through, swelling the days until they felt heavy. Once, I couldn't bear to let anyone pass through my life like a quietly flowing stream. I tried desperately to hold on to certain people. But as I grew older, I began to allow and accept everything. I allowed my weakness, my tears, my lack of grace. I also allowed the people I loved to be nothing more than water splashed against my window pane. Dear little girl, don't cry. One day, you'll grow up, and I'll become someone you describe like this. When I was little, I really liked my brother's ex-girlfriend. She was the only one who would patiently play with me. Later they broke up, and I even called her and cried. Or maybe I won't appear in your memory at all. Either way, it's fine. I accept it completely. Books I skimmed through as a child, one day, as an adult, I suddenly understood them. So this was the state of mind the author had when they wrote those words. The past is separated by oceans. Old houses are gone. Listen to the cold rain. At this point, my love life is a public service announcement. Free of charge.